Welcome back, WNST. And again, I go into the Wayback Machine, and I really do think it's my life's work to collect people. And I have collected so many people through LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all these places that I promote, as well as my travels in the world and rock and roll. And I got a big announcement coming out next week on Friday from Super Bowl 52. We're going to be out in Minnesota about the future here and some stuff that we're doing. But part of the future is going to the past. And this guy may have been my second or third ever guest at the barn back in 1996. As we like to say around here now that we've won 2 championships, I like to think of Mike Frederick as a legacy around here. He sort of came off the bus with the Bill Belichick Cleveland Browns, and lo, these many years later, he lives in Philadelphia. He is a Philadelphian, a University of Virginia graduate, went there to work there for a while, now works in the wealth management sector up there in the city of brotherly love, where everybody in Baltimore can support the Eagles for a week because, let's be honest, we can't support the Patriots. We welcome Mike Frederick back onto the program, Ravens alum from the early days. Dude, where are your old jerseys? You still got your old Raven jersey in the closet there for your kids, Freddie?
Oh, you bet I do. I have them on. I put them on all the time.
Well, Super Bowl for Philadelphia. Well, we've seen a lot of things. We've never seen a parade there for a championship, and obviously they're an underdog and Foles and all that stuff. But you played in this league for a period of time, and trying to educate your lad there about the Eagles. This is about as good as it gets for a community, and we've had that happen here twice, so we're familiar with how good that feels when you go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I tell you, it's really it's something special, and I was lucky to be a part of one with the Tennessee Titans. We got to Super Bowl 34 and fell a yard short to the Rams. But growing up here in Philly, just off the boulevard in the Northeast, as we call it here, the greater Northeast of Philadelphia, they went in '80. I was a little kid, a little bit younger than my son is now, and you would ride the ups and downs with the team, and like any awesome city that supports their team, we think we have the best fans in the world. I was playing in Baltimore. I know, we as Ravens thought we had the best fans in the world, and it's really an exciting time here. An improbable run, and it kind of seems a little bit like it's our time.
You know what's funny? You mentioned your time with the Titans. I have a picture of you and I together from that day when it was about 25 degrees in that tent, when they did the media day in the tent that morning. You and me and Schwartzy taking pictures together there as a little Baltimore alums. And now, these 20 years later, Schwartz sits on the front lines there. And I know you remember when he was, Marvin's assistant in the corner, and Marvin and I would sit there with those sandwiches in that little corner office and watch film on Friday afternoon, and Schwartz would be in there as well, and Schwartz with all the Baltimore roots. It's crazy how it all comes together, and that I find you on LinkedIn and you can do some radio with me, Freddie.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Jim Schwartz is he's one of my all-time favorites. We were together 5 years. He was the one that was on that staff in Tennessee after my 4 years with Cleveland and Baltimore. I did a camp in New York. And when Parcells cut me loose, Schwartz went to bat for me and said, "Hey, this kid's a pretty good football player." And I was very fortunate. I'm a big fan of his. Not just him. I got to know he and his wife and his children. Stay in touch. And as you know, this is a real relational game. And you talked about you being a collector of people, nasty one. It's one of those things when you're sitting at a Super Bowl and it's a media day and you're a perennial backup. It's really pretty cool to have somebody come over and want to talk about, the path that not just myself had followed, but that Jim Schwartz had gone through and how we all came to be in that spot. And I think it's going to be really exciting to kind of listen to your show when you're out there in Minnesota. Jim Schwartz, again, is going to be right there in the front line. A college teammate who's on that Eagles staff. It's just such a small network of people, and I'm really excited for the Eagles, the city up here. Equally as excited to see how your career's taken the direction it has. And I'm proud to be one of those early guests at the barn and all you can eat crabs, man. It was good times.
You know what, man? It's really sweet of you to say that, and I had completely have spaced out on the Titans thing until you brought it up, and I'm like, oh my God! By the way, I'm going to find that picture and I'm going to share that later today because I definitely have pictures of you and me at the barn. You were at one of my anniversary shows. Because it came at an awkward time, like in January. You were one of the guys that was still kind of hanging around because you lived in the area in Philadelphia, and you came out for that show as well. But, you know, I find it fascinating now that we're 22 years later. Ozzie is still the only guy that has ever picked a football player in the history of our franchise. I mean, it really is incredible. And now we send Joe Douglas and Andy Weidel up there to Philadelphia. You got Schwartz, Corey Graham, Donnell Ellerbe, Torrey Smith, Timmy Jernigan. I mean, it just goes on and on how much Ravens and the Ravens are a part of what the Eagles are, at least for this time. But, you know, you go back to the original day when Ray Lewis walked in to the locker room in the Mean Machine, right? And now next Saturday, Ray is going to be going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame the night before your Eagles are going to go in. And I would think for all the players you played with the Freak in Tennessee and McNair and Eddie Joy, all that stuff, there's got to be something for you to say to your 10-year-old kid this summer when the television's on, or maybe you'll go out to Canton. We're running some bus trips out there, Freddie. You know, and that's got to mean something to you. You played football with Ray Lewis, right? I mean, for a guy that played a couple of years, played in the Super Bowl, that's probably the story you tell, right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, again, it is a relational league, and you know, these guys become more than teammates. And I think the hard part about it is you're with them for a few years, and then you move on. And you know, sometimes some people get lucky enough to stay in one place for a significant period of time. And I think you've seen it with Ray, and you've seen it last year or a year or two ago with Ogden. I mean, those two are coming off of the same draft class, and the first year there in Baltimore, and here we have these two franchise players that are going to change, not only the landscape for Baltimore football and our time there in the world's largest outdoor insane asylum and the opening of the new stadium and all the fun stuff we got to do there. And yet it was these guys that I got to go to battle with, and I got to see them prepare, and I got to see them be experts at their field and practice up close against an Ogden. And I tell you, these are the memories that you try to tell people about, and you hope they can appreciate some of it. But to see some of these guys get their due, because of how hard they worked and all the time they put in, and the impact they had on the kids in that community, the community itself, it's so well deserved, and I couldn't be more happy for him, his family, and those guys, those other Baltimore Ravens that are going to be around him.
Mike Frederick was a Raven back in the early days of the 1990s. He lives up in Philadelphia now. He's a director at SEI, doing wealth management up there, getting out of football, using that Virginia education, man. I mean, the smart guys went to the Ivy League or the ACC and all that stuff back in the day. But you're living a good life up there in Philadelphia. And, there is life after football, right? And I guess I'm going to be talking a lot about that in Minnesota from CTE and things that happen to players. And, I mean, you were a teammate of Orlando Brown back in the day, and we've lost some guys along the way in some tragedies, but, life after football exists for a lot of you, and I think those are good stories, too, when players go off and do other things with their lives after spending, a couple of years in the NFL. They call it NFL, not for long, right, Freddie?
Yeah, I would tell you this. You never lose connections with the people that you play with, the people you grow up with. I mean, I'm on an email thread with 6 buddies from high school who are texting me, what part of your body would you give up if the Eagles get to go to the Super Bowl, and they're texting back and forth, and you're kind of, it never changes. We're just regular folks who we're gifted with a unique ability that people tend to like to watch on television, and there is so much more to our lives, and I think the guys that get locked into it being all about football, sometimes that's a hard thing. And I've been very blessed to have great friends and great family and a good support system that's enabled me to kind of transition to another world. But I tell you, I mean, nothing matches what it's like to go out there on Sunday and run out of the tunnel and, see all the purple and black go crazy and the Technotronics up on the screens with the the Ravens morphing with red eyes and into half players and, things that are just, you don't see that every day when you come into work. And I know that's true for all of us out there. So you gotta really appreciate it, be thankful that you had the chance to do it, and then, love and appreciate those memories and move on.
You considering a trip out to Minnesota next week, Freddie? I mean, I know hometown team, your kid, you got some relationships inside the Eagles. At heart, you're an Eagles fan, right? I mean, you have an Eagles jacket. You got some fan stuff that's Eagles related, right?
Yeah, well, my 6th year was I went to camp with Philly. Andy Reid cut me loose, and that was the end of it. So I've got the official Eagles gear, and I came back home knowing that my career was kind of winding down and had a chance to maybe play 1 or 2 more. And it turned out that was the first year of the 4 straight NFC championship games.
Right.
And they were the most, they were probably the most polished defense I had been on at the time. I was not on that Ravens 2000 team. I had moved on to Tennessee at the time. So I know we were getting better, but we had kind of switched systems from the 4-3 to the 3-4, and Marvin Lewis was kind of getting the right guys in there to fit his system. And that's one of the reasons I had to kind of move on. I didn't quite fit that scheme. I'm not going to go out to Minnesota. Coldest I've ever been in my life was when I had to go out there and play at Cleveland. They wouldn't let us get off the bus when we landed until we had ski masks and gloves, and they were telling us the fluid in our eyes was going to freeze. So, I have no interest in going out there. I'll watch it in my house with my family. But I tell you, we're at 51 years. We've not had a Super Bowl victory here. When Andy Reid cut me, I went into his office and said, listen, I've been on 5 football teams. I've won a lot of games. I've lost a lot of games. I know you're doing what you think is best for this team. But from a guy that grew up a mile from the boulevard, go get us a Super Bowl. And that's the way I feel about it today.
Well, and you're still waiting. Hopefully not too long, maybe less than 2 weeks here. Mike Frederick, our dear friend, you can find him out on LinkedIn as well if you're looking up old ball players who were always a lot of fun to have around here. And so I'm rooting for you. Hey, I thought of you, and I know we have talked about varieties of concerts and ball games and Phillies and Flyers and kids and cheesesteaks and all that, but at some point our paths are going to cross, you and me, and I have a feeling it's going to involve crab fries or something, and we'll have some fun together, man.
You're darn right. I tell you, I appreciate it. I appreciate you thinking of us. That's something you've always done. It doesn't go, it doesn't go unnoticed to us guys that moved on, and not necessarily by choice. I think many of us would have loved to have stayed there 12, 15 years, but people like you checking in, connecting us with the community. I got a buddy right down there listening to the show today. Works for Videology in Baltimore. They're texting me, said I got bumped for some guy named Billick. Giving me a hard time. So thank you for checking in, and I can't wish you nothing but the best.
Hey, man, we'll see you soon. Further up, we're only 88 miles that separate us, and at some point, I prefer to get up there for something non-fan related, something where like we go to see U2 or Bruce Springsteen, and everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction.
Well, I work with obviously Liquid Net worth families that are greater than 25 million and up, so I figure you'll be calling me about something soon enough.
Right, exactly. Once I collect a few rubles here, I'll ring you up. Freddie, I appreciate you, man. Be well.
You got it, buddy.
You got it. Mike Frederick joining us here. He's a wealth manager up there in the Philadelphia area and a University of Virginia grad who played a number of years in the league with the Ravens and the Titans and moving around, played the Super Bowl down there in Atlanta with the men of Jim Schwartz. Lots of Ravens connections in this Eagles front office as well as down onto the field and the coaching staff as well. So we'll be pointing all that stuff out. And I'm sure Luke and I will be chasing some of those old Ravens around Minnesota next week. What the hell else are we going to do besides freeze there, right? So we'll be doing that next week. And I hope to hear from all those folks as we get ready for Super Bowl 52 and Ray Lewis's induction to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're running our bus trips out to Canton, Ohio. You can check all that information out on the Road Trips tab at WNST.net. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. I am your Ravens alumni headquarters. Always good to reach to those guys, man, and I certainly miss having Michael Jackson around as well. Zeus and his boy doing well now is going to be first-round draft pick. So it goes on and on and on, and hopefully Jim Schwartz will bring the Lombardi Trophy back to Arbutus. If they bring it back for all the Schwartzes, they'll have to have it for like a month because there's like 1,000 Schwartzes in Baltimore. So congratulations to all the Schwartzes and all the Torrey Smith friends and family. He's done a lot here in the community as well. Was down here at Dunbar doing a speech to get kids on the right pathway here. So I'm sure Torrey will be doing his off-season basketball game here. It'll be bigger and better than ever. Maybe he can import Carson Wentz to come down here, hang out. Maybe not shoot baskets in the condition he's in, but Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, anywhere you are. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.